Introducing you to people across North Carolina and around the world who put their Catholic faith into action. This is FaithWorks on Catholic 540 AM Divine Mercy Radio. Now, here's your host for FaithWorks, Ellen White.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of FaithWorks on Divine Mercy Radio. Our show highlights individuals through God's grace who put their faith into action daily. Amazing people who have an interesting, sometimes overlooked impact on our Catholic faith. On FaithWorks, we share their stories. I'm your host, Ellen White. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Kate Tierney Lefevre, a Catholic wife, mother, and mentor whose journey has been shaped by profound love, deep loss, and God's steady faithfulness. Kate's story includes walking through grief after the death of her first husband, Tom, while raising their 8 children, and discovering along the way how God meets us not by removing suffering, but by accompanying us through it. That journey eventually led her into professional formation with the Catholic Psych Institute and to her work through Mosaic Mentorship, where she now walks with others in a structured, faith-informed process of healing and restoration. Kate, thank you so much for coming into the studio and for being here. And full disclosure, too, Kate's an old friend, so this is a special encounter. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's such an awesome story, and I'm really edified by what you're doing in your work, and I've really enjoyed knowing you all these years, so thanks for being here. Okay, so for our listeners, briefly introduce yourself and your family.
Okay, briefly. I'll keep it brief.
Okay, we'll go through it.
So I am the second oldest of a large family, and I met my first husband, Tom, when I was 16. And we were married for 21 years after college and have 8 children together. 6 years ago, approximately 6 years ago, he passed unexpectedly on July 1st, and that changed a lot for us, of course. We went through a lot of different ups and downs and roller coasters in the healing process, and it still comes up. But now I am remarried to a college friend who also knew Tom, and we're in our 3rd year of marriage, and so I'm a stepmother of 4 as well.
Beautiful. So 12 children.
Yes.
And it was, and I shared this with you prior to the interview too, Kate. It was such a wonderful experience for me, and I'm sure many other women that were able to kind of walk with you. I didn't really know you that well when Tom passed, but I certainly got to know you in the years following. And just watching you at the funeral and how you embraced everybody else that was dealing with the loss of Tom too. You were able to go above and beyond your own grief, and it was such a beautiful thing to encounter. So I wonder, what was it in those early days that helped you do that so beautifully with such grace?
Well, people like you, Ellen, really family and friends, and just being held and uplifted. I was so grateful for the friends who came in, and some of them not close acquaintances that I got together with often, but people who came in and did things to help get the funeral underway, for the luncheon afterwards, arranging things, helping with Tom's business, who weren't asking anything in return. So they didn't want to take up my time. They didn't want to grasp any more of my energy that was limited at that moment also, and just came in and saw things that needed to be done and did them. And I was really grateful.
And that speaks volumes, too, to what we can do to help people when they're grieving. Not so much ask what I can do, but just step up to the plate and offer specific things that you can do. I remember one thing about the funeral Tom's brother was talking about him and was talking about how Tom would do a spreadsheet of masses that he offered. That spoke to me and made me realize how important that is to have masses said for loved ones that have passed on a regular basis, and how long the spreadsheet was. So I don't, for whatever reason, that stuck out with me, Kate.
Yeah, that was one of his favorite gifts to give. And I don't know if you have ever heard this story before, but shortly after he died, I got a letter from a priest in California. Tom used to travel a lot for business.
Okay.
And he would go out to the city of Industry, California, and go to this little church for a daily mass. And I guess he had made quite a generous donation a week or so. It was shortly before he died. And I got this letter from the priest thanking me so much, or thanking Tom so much for the donation he made. And we were laughing about it, thinking he had a bunch of masses said for himself. Because the priest said, in Thanksgiving for that, I'll be keeping you in my prayers, especially during the Mass.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, so we're recording this interview near January 5th, a meaningful date connected to your first husband, Tom. How do you hold space for that part of your story today, especially in light of where God has led you since?
Well, in celebrating Tom's birthday, we still have his birthday dinner celebration, his favorite meal that he had when he was a kid. And we talk about him a lot. I mean, he comes up in conversation all the time. Your dad this, or so this is what he found funny, or I don't know. He's just a part of our lives still.
Yeah. You keep him present, I'd imagine.
Yes.
Is that important with the healing process?
I think so. And it's really important, too, for people. I think sometimes after a while, it seems like your statute of limitations for your grieving process is over, which isn't true. That's a falsehood. But, it feels that way with other people. Like, okay, everybody's heard my story. They know our situation. Your time is up. We're moving on to the next thing. And it's really healing to be able to tell your story and to be able to tell about your loss and talk about it. Mm-hmm. So I always appreciate that, too, when people truly want to hear what your situation was, because everybody's situation is different.
Yes.
And sometimes they don't get an opportunity to talk about it.
I've heard that, Kate, that with grieving, everybody grieves so differently. And it's important that you allow whoever it is in your life that is grieving to grieve however they feel they need to, and not do what you said people have a tendency to do, is just, okay, we're done. Let's move on. You've talked about it enough. So, yeah, I think that that's worthy of repeating for sure. So for this interview, I'd like to do a couple of things. I want to talk about your own faith journey and your grief associated with losing Tom, and then how you went from that and going through the healing to this current position that you have with mentorship. I'm so excited about this and what this opportunity affords for so many people locally and beyond where we are. But I want to know, take me back to that first experience with losing Tom, and it was an unexpected passing with him. What did it look like for you as a woman of faith and a mother of 8?
Right after.
Mm-hmm.
There absolutely was a moment, after the paramedics had left. Tom had a stroke, and that was about midnight. Mm. And within an hour, he was gone. And so there was a moment after the paramedics had gone, the funeral home had come and taken him away. The kids were all in bed, and I was by myself, and it felt like the walls were coming in. And it was really just such a shock of being hit with, all of a sudden, I am an unemployed single mother of 8 kids, and life's trajectory just totally shifted in a way that I never thought would happen.
How old were the kids at that point? Were they all at home?
they were all home that week because it was summer vacation.
Okay.
It was 4th of July week. And my oldest was 20 and my youngest was 3 at the time.
Okay. So you're there by yourself, and then what did your faith look like at that point?
I'm so grateful for faith in those moments. And I know immediately, even when Tom had the stroke, and it took me a few seconds for it to kick in what was going on with him. But his hands started to curl up and his eyes were kind of half-masked and he was growling a little bit at me. And this is at midnight, and I was frightened, and I immediately grabbed the holy water and blessed him. And then called the paramedics because then I was like, okay, this is what's happening right now. Yeah. But I was so grateful for faith in those moments, because even with the walls closing in at that time, it was short-lived, because it's like, okay, it's gonna be okay. I don't know what that looks like, but I know it's gonna be okay. And the second and probably more important part of that is that because of faith, and because of where Tom was spiritually, I knew that I should be happy for him. Like, this is the goal. Someone said this to me once, and it was a person who not a person of faith, but it said, it's interesting how we celebrate birthdays. January 5th is Tom's birthday. We celebrate birthdays, but really your death day is your birth into eternal life. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't seem like that's much of a celebration because we're grieving for ourselves, but hopefully the goal is not to have to grieve for them.
It's interesting too, Kate, that it seems like there's a trend among some, secular cultures not even to do the funeral anymore, that it's the cremation, and then, sometimes there's a celebration of life maybe, but it just seems like more often than not, I don't know if you've encountered this, that there's not any kind of acknowledgement of the death. But yeah, birthdays, yes, for sure. That's such a great point. And why are we not celebrating? We're pilgrims here. This for a short time, and we're headed, Lord willing, to our eternal home. So yeah, that's great foresight of someone that wasn't even practicing a faith too.
And really, it's such a huge change in a person's life that it deserves to be acknowledged and represented with a big event, even if it feels sad and, of course, not fun going to those things, and also confusing to be people of faith and thinking I should be happy for him, and I feel terrible. In the eulogy I wrote for him, I had said something along those lines, like, I should, be happy for you. And I had my brother-in-law read them because I didn't think I could get the words out without crying. Right. So it was this anomaly of, like, talking about being happy for you while I'm sobbing. Right. For me.
Exactly. Right. And your kids, I'm curious, especially among the young ones, how have they responded to Tom's passing? And, 6 years now, how are they acknowledging Tom's passing, and how have they dealt with moving on? How has it been for them? I'm sure it's different for each one.
For sure. I was, again, thankful for the different mentors in my life. And I say that in a, friends and acquaintance kind of way, not in a professional aspect. But there was a mom at the school my kids go to who came over. She represented the Moms in Prayer group. And she came in and was talking to me because she lost her husband when her oldest son was 4. And she said, keep an eye on the kids, because she said it might seem like time has passed and they're good, but when they get to be about 14, it might hit him. It's going to, like the different milestones in life. And so I keep kind of an eye out for, okay, what's going on with you right now? They're going to miss their dad at certain times in life. And you see things on TV or, there are commercials or things that come up about like, oh, Dad taught me this. Or my daughter and I were watching a show together the other day, and they kept playing a commercial, and it was showing the dad, following his daughter's dream. And then she becomes an adult, and it's like, wow, you followed your dream. And we talked about that a little bit, because those are words that she won't hear out loud.
Mm-hmm.
So for each of them, it was different. And I will say that it was true. It was hardest in that moment for my sons who were 11 and 14 at the time, and then for the oldest. But at the same time, being boys, they don't all tell you what's going on either. So it's hard when you're in the fog of your own grief to be aware of what other people might be experiencing.
You know, I'm curious about that. So I'm always curious about the line when you kind of let them experience it and kind of work through it and come to you when they're ready versus, hey, I know that, or I think that you might be experiencing this. You want to talk about it? What's the line? How do you determine?
Faith and prayer.
Exactly.
And guardian angels, please let me know.
Exactly.
Alert me.
Right.
I mean, like in all the areas of their lives,
Yes.
like, please, I need an alert. Something's going on and I'm not aware of it. And of course, for some of them, their ways of dealing with grief were so present in their behavior. It's almost like, the difference between a child shouting out because they need something and they want something right now versus the one who hides in a closet with it. And so I would say there are a few of mine who've never really talked to me about it. And I wonder, like, do you need to talk to someone? And there are others who maybe brought that to different people in their life as well, aside from me.
Oh, that's so great. So just consistently being aware and asking those questions, maybe especially when they're reaching these young teenage years, and paying attention to the outward signs, I'd imagine, like with grades and interactions with friends and stuff. Okay, so you shared with me that you participated in Grief Share and other support spaces. What was genuinely helpful for you during those experiences? What did you take with you from that?
I did a lot throughout the first year, and I felt like in some ways I was going through a checklist. This is your checklist to get better, which, if we're being honest, there isn't a checklist. And I almost don't want to say that out loud, because for anyone who is grieving the loss of someone right now, in a very new way, that might be hard to hear. Like, you can't just do X, Y, and Z and all of a sudden magically you're better. But at the same time, the help is also in just that there was something you can do in the process, something you could take control of. A reason I had to get up and get dressed and get out the door to go to a grief share meeting, but knowing it's a safe space because everyone there was suffering the loss of someone as well.
I wonder, with that particular experience, I'm sure that it ran the gamut of what these individuals were experiencing in their grief. And then somebody like you comes in and you have had such a tremendous loss. What was that like for the other people in the grief experience that you were meeting?
I remember I was surprised. There was a friend of mine who ended up in the same grief share group, and she had recently lost her brother. And I just remember her being very quiet. Now, everybody has their different personality type, but when it's time to share things in a group like that, someone might have lost a parent or a child or a sibling. And then there was my loss of my husband and being a single mom with 8 kids. And I was very aware that my story took over the room because it seemed bigger. But at the same time, it's like nobody's loss is minimal to them. That's your own personal experience, like the loss of somebody's brother. So I really felt for her that she was silenced a little bit and not able to really get as much as she needed out of the group because she felt like hers wasn't big enough. Her pain wasn't big enough to share. And it's hard when comparison is the thief of joy, right? So it's hard when you have different situations that seem to be weighing against each other and whose loss is bigger than someone else's, and you really can't measure that.
I wonder, 'cause I'm obviously not familiar with Grief Share and other support systems like this. If it's, I mean, and you've said this, it seems like it would be much more effective to have individual accompaniment because of this particular situation that you encountered. You're dealing directly with whatever it is that this individual is going through, so you can kind of walk through those steps with them. Is that why this sort of thing is so important to you? You think it's more effective to be with individuals and working with them as opposed to in a group setting?
I think it's the both and, because of course the people who started Grief Share, the grief support groups that I help with, one at Holy Name of Jesus. There are some at different parishes throughout the diocese as well, and Raleigh Grief Center has a lot of things that they offer as well. It's important to have a starting place, a stepping stone, somewhere to land, somewhere to even network. Where am I supposed to get help? Because sometimes, like, when you're doing something that's happy, like planning a wedding, or of course you're going to search. You've got all the energy in the world to find your people and to find your support and to find the vendors you need. And when you are so emotionally drained and just getting through your day, it's hard to know where to turn. So I think the group situation is important in that regard, but everybody's grief story and experience is so different and unique and deserves its space to be honored. Even within, through Raleigh Grief Center, there was a group that was just for people who were widowed. Okay. And so it kind of narrowed down the topic, but for every person who's widowed, the situation is different. Were you in a good relationship? Was your relationship rocky? Were you together when the person died? Were you apart? Were you able to spend time thinking about last things with your loved one, or was it sudden?
Did you encounter any other women that were in your same situation, or were you the only one?
I did, but it was, and that's another area where I feel like the accompaniment, the grief story, like, deserves its own space, and deserves its individual accompaniment, because when there's so much hurt in the room, and like, I've lost my spouse, and another woman has lost her spouse, and it's, I compared it to, when you put your kids together, because they're both in second grade, and they're both, they both like soccer, so they should probably get along. It's like, it doesn't work that way, right? Friends. Moms are friends. Shouldn't you guys get along too?
True.
It doesn't work that way. And it's almost like, okay, I can respect and hold space for the fact that you are going through something really painful, and I'm going through something painful too. It's not the same.
Right.
And you can't give what you don't have. And, we're both emotionally drained. So.
Right. And I loved what you said about the energy, because, I mean, it's just, I cannot imagine, but I understand about, when you're just so worn out and you don't have the energy even to take the next step. So now I'm curious, at some point you realized that God might be calling you to serve in this capacity as helping others that were grieving. How did that come about? Tell us that story.
So I did Grief Share, and I did Raleigh Grief Center, and kind of was grasping on to all the different areas of healing. And I got through the first year and all the first milestones, and was a little bit blindsided by the fact that I wasn't all better. Which anybody else can laugh at.
I checked off the boxes. Let's move on.
Right. I checked off the boxes. I feel like if you have not suffered a loss like that, it's hard to understand what that looks like. And so I got to the second year, and it's kind of like, okay, what now? Like, where's the next stepping stone? And I did end up in therapy with a grief counselor, and she is the one who kept pushing me to ask, and she was a Catholic counselor.
Yeah, it's going to be my next question.
Yeah,
okay.
What do you think God is calling you to do now?
It's so great that she was asking you that.
It was. At the time, I was a little resentful.
Right.
Because I felt like, okay, well, he's got all the strings, and I was a good wife, and my husband is gone.
Right.
So I don't know. You tell me.
Exactly. Right.
Right. A little bratty.
A little sarcasm
A little
there.
bratty with the Lord. A little teenager, over here. My teenage soul. But she kept pushing me. And really, I mean, it's just such a good image of the times in your life where you're stuck and you need somebody to take your hand and say, you know what? I think you would be good at this. Mm-hmm. And that's what she did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it was this sort of thing that you felt like you wanted. So how did you go about searching it? How did the Catholic Psych Institute end up in your line of sight?
Well, that was a recommendation from the grief therapist as well. She said, if I had it to do over again, she said, and I started to look into master's degree programs for counseling or social work or whatever would lead me in that direction where I could work in therapy in some capacity. Mm-hmm. And, as a solo parent of 8 kids, I couldn't travel to go to a school. Mm-hmm. So it had to be an online program. And so she told me that her master's degree took this many years, cost this many tens of thousands of dollars. Mm. And if she had to do it over again, she would look at this program that Catholic Psych Institute was putting together, which was the Catholic Psych method of applied personalism. And so I started to look into that.
And it appealed to you, obviously. All right, before we go on. If you're just joining us, this is Ellen White with FaithWorks on Divine Mercy Radio. I'm here with Kate Lefevre, a Catholic wife, mother, and mentor associated with the Catholic Psych Institute and the founder of Mosaic Mentorship. We're grateful for our show's sponsor, Thales College. Okay, so, wow. So you're saying things that I'm totally unfamiliar with the Catholic Psych Institute and what they do and their approach. So let's go down that explanation first. So what is it that they do and in their approach to individuals and treatment, and why does it appeal to you so much?
Well, first of all, because it's unapologetically Catholic.
Amen. Yes.
So
what does that mean for somebody that's tuning in that might not be Catholic?
To receive your license as a therapist, there are certain requirements of the state that whatever program you go to for your master's degree, for your additional schooling, that has to align with. And the programs that I was researching said that, they had disclaimers like we don't align with that, or we might never align with that. And then it had me wondering, like, okay, what is the difference here? Like, I'm trying to go to a Catholic university to get this degree. What is the difference? And so, I mean, for every institution and, for every college, it's like they have to conform in some way for the license.
Got it.
And if an unapologetically Catholic program does not.
And, okay, so what does that mean for the treatment approach? How about that?
It's very different. So, and that's not to say, like, there is therapy and coaching and spiritual direction, and every single thing is important and has its place. Catholic Psych Institute mentorship is faith-centered. It's relational accompaniment that integrates sound psychology and wisdom with Catholic anthropology to help people become whole. Body, mind, and spirit. So you can treat all three.
Yes, body, mind, and spirit. You said that when we were talking about this before, and that's so appealing to me. The name of your company is Mosaic Mentorship.
Yes,
correct. And I every time I say it, I think of Tom's tombstone. So I think that that's a beautiful segue into you describing his tombstone and how you came up with the name, and then why you chose it for treatment. It's such a beautiful connection there. So go ahead.
We have an artist friend we went to university with, and I asked him, and I know, he's providing for his family, doing Catholic art, which has to be tough, but he's so talented. And so I'd asked him to design Tom's tombstone, and he came up with a beautiful mosaic on the tombstone, all these different colors.
It is so beautiful.
And it connects really with what you had asked before. Did I ever get pushback with, people, whether you celebrate a funeral or have some sort of, not celebration, but memorial ceremony around the person's death? And someone had made a comment that, his tombstone was odd because of all these colors in a cemetery. And another person said, it's the joy of the resurrection.
Amen.
Represented. And so he hand sculpted a figure of the Sacred Heart. Tom was very devoted to the Sacred Heart and had that cast in bronze. And so that's on his tombstone as well. But it's a beautiful mosaic. And when I was coming up with a name for the company, my daughter suggested Mosaic Mentorship because of that, but also because we have broken parts from life's experiences, from old wounds and scars, from childhood, from relationships, from loss. And they're not rubbish. They can come together and be made into a beautiful masterpiece, into what your life is transformed into. So it's not as if you're being fixed, but transformed, really.
Something that I liked that you said when we were talking on the phone about this last week was that mentorship is more like surgery than a Band-Aid. And what does that mean for someone in practical terms who feels stuck?
For sure. Okay, so a Band-Aid does what? It's, temporary relief. It's great. Kids love Band-Aids. They make you
Especially
feel better.
When they have characters on them.
Somebody did something to make me feel better. I can do something to make me feel better. It's helpful, but it doesn't heal what's underneath of that. Surgery, on the other hand, goes beneath the surface to repair what's actually injured and leads to long-term healing, not just the symptoms, management. And Catholic Psych Institute's mentorship program works that way because we're identifying patterns, not just problems. It gauges the whole person, psychological, spiritual, relational, emotional, invites real change, not just coping strategies. And just like surgery, the work isn't instant. So in some ways it's harder to do. I mean, it's going to be hard work and it might hurt more going through it. It might get worse before it gets better. But at the end of the day, and you're going to need recovery time, but ultimately it's going to restore your function like surgery would, restore your freedom, restore your health in a way that a surface level fix cannot. It's like a bandage can help you survive and surgery can help you heal.
I love that. And you talked about body, mind, soul. That body, mind, soul understanding. There's a connection with St. John Paul the Great in that.
Yes.
What is that?
So mentorship draws heavily from the teachings of St. John Paul II. And he taught that the human person is unity, not compartments. The body expresses a person, not just biology. And interior suffering always carries meaning, not just pathology. So when healing is grounded in who you are, not just what's wrong, shame softens, dignity is restored. So it's profoundly therapeutic.
Coming towards the end, we have maybe about 10 minutes left. I'd like to talk to you about, I guess, your work, how long you've been doing this, when you started, and what it's meant for you in your own healing process. And then we'll get to hope for those that are struggling. So when did you officially start Mosaic Mentorship?
I officially started in March of 2025.
Oh,
so
wow.
Recently.
Yeah, less than a year.
Yes.
Okay. And what are you thinking almost, what is that, 10 months out, 9 months out, about the choice to do it, and where you are now with it?
So I'm also a partner mentor with Catholic Psych. And of course, like any suffering, body, mind, and spirit, we can accompany a person with. But with Mosaic Mentorship, I really am just focusing in on grief, because I think grief affects people in so many different areas of life, not just somebody who's lost a spouse or a child or a parent, but also just there's the grief of what life might have been, of the child you wanted to have, of the marriage that you wanted to keep and weren't able to, or of your life goals and career changes and financial situations that, so many different losses in life that we don't know how to carry. And I think generationally, we've been told, like, no, just, pull up your bootstraps and move on. But really, in order to move on in a strong way, it has to be acknowledged, it has to be told, it has to be healed.
You need to go into it and actually heal it and talk about it. Okay, so you said you are, what's the proper term, your association with the Catholic Psych Institute?
I'm a partner.
You're a partner with them.
Mentor, yes.
So they provided the training for you to do what you're doing, correct?
Yes.
And what does that training look like?
It looks like about 2 years or less of really the very best of psychology and Catholic anthropology and theology and doctoral level courses on those areas to draw from. And honestly, another draw and something that's a little different is how very personal the program is, because you're encouraged the entire time not just to learn about those different areas of dealing with a human person, but also to turn it inward and search and see what areas are you struggling with, what personality defenses might I be dealing with. We all have it. We all need help. The very best therapists are continue to work on themselves. And so I have my own mentor as well, and continue to look inward and see what parts of myself might be coming up.
Many listeners will hear terms like therapy, spiritual direction, coaching, and mentorship. How would you gently distinguish mentorship from those without diminishing their value?
Yeah, they're all important. So it's not to replace any of those three things. They're a distinct and integrative way of walking with someone. Like therapy aims at clinical healing. Spiritual direction aims at discernment of God's action, right? And coaching aims at a goal attainment or a performance attainment. And so in mentorship, we aim for an integrated human formation and restoration. And what I mean by that is, like, how can you restore wholeness? Healing happens when there is wholeness in the person involved. And, to back up a little bit, and we talked about body, mind, and soul treated, like human suffering rarely stays in one lane. So you might have emotional pain that shows up in the body, or spiritual wounds that affect your mental health, or even psychological trauma that impacts your prayer. And to be able to treat all of that in an integrated way and walk with somebody in an integrated way. So, like, therapy is an incredible gift. It helps people heal wounds. As a mentor, I don't diagnose mental illness, but I definitely can work with personality defenses. If somebody really is experiencing like extreme trauma or suicidal ideation, of course, you want somebody's eyes on them. So these are things that can work in tandem together as well. I have clients who are in therapy, or they also are seeing a psychiatrist, but have receiving mentorship as well. Spiritual direction helps us listen for God's voice and notice how he's moving in our prayer life. And mentorship can also look at like what might be making it hard to stay in the present moment with God. What other areas are affecting that? Coaching is wonderful for setting goals and moving forward, but sometimes people lack motivation and they can't really pinpoint what it is. Like, I've got all the tools in front of me. Why am I stuck? Why can't I get out of bed? Why can't I move towards those goals? And so mentorship slows things down enough to restore that capacity instead of like pushing someone forward when there are other things that need to be looked at and healed and untangled first. I like to think of it as, using metaphors or analogies are always helpful to me, but I always think of like your basement is musty. I know we're in North Carolina, not many people have basements, so maybe your attic, like you're smelling something musty there, and you start to clean it out, and you get some air fresheners, and, we're moving things, and we start to see, oh, yeah, well, that's part of the problem is this box of old books. Okay, we've got that out of the way. But as you go in, and like layer and under layer is unpeeled, and you really get to see like what is in there. Oh, well, there was a leak back in the far corner that we couldn't even see because all this other stuff was in front of it. So really to be able to dig deep and not avoid any area. So if I only had to stay in the lane of mental health or in the lane of spiritual direction, I might be missing something somewhere else.
It's all encompassing. And I love, obviously, that it's unapologetically Catholic. There's such an opportunity to work with the divine physician through Eucharistic adoration and, receiving these amazing graces at Mass with grace perfecting nature, which is something that we all need.
Right.
So I love that. And I think what you're doing here, Kate, is amazing. And I really feel like this type of work is really on the cusp of what is going to be effective treatment for so many people now and way on into the future. All right. So who do you find yourself most often walking with now through Mosaic Mentorship?
I'm glad you asked that because, what we were just speaking about, it might sound like, okay, so like we feel it in many areas. Okay, I have to be physically fit enough to go to the gym and actually get help at the gym. It's like, no, okay, the reason you need to go to the gym, you're not quite there yet. And in the same way, even though mentorship with Catholic Psych and with Mosaic Mentorship is unapologetically Catholic, you don't necessarily have to be Catholic to come receive that kind of healing.
Good point.
You don't even have to be in line with your faith right now, or you might be confused or questioning things, and that's okay too. We can start in any area for that capacity. So what I would say right now, it's a whole gamut of people, but there are religious, cloistered, who receive mentorship. A lot of clients in their early 20s, early 30s, questioning different areas of life and relationship, and some people who've experienced loss. So really anyone can come for mentorship. It is for adults right now. I don't treat children, and I think that's another area of like where therapy comes in because you want eyes on a person who's young.
Yeah. So you do not do children.
No.
What's the age? Where do you start?
So 18.
18. Okay. And kudos to the young adults that are asking for help because that shows courage and strength right there.
Honestly, I'm so impressed because the young adults I've helped in mentorship, I would say most of them are not practicing their faith, and they're questioning it in some way. And so just the grace that brought them, first of all, to ask someone for help, but to not be frightened by the fact that it is a Catholic program, and to be brave enough and courageous enough to step forward and say, hey, I need help.
And what do you say to those people that say, I think I'm interested in something like this, but I don't think my issue is big enough? What is big enough, quote unquote?
If it's something causing you to be stuck, if you're thinking, I love my faith, but I'm exhausted, or I've done the right thing and I'm still stuck, it might be the gentle next step. Not instead of therapy or spiritual direction, but alongside them and in a way that honors how God created you as a whole person. And quite honestly, everyone's story is their story. Everyone's feelings are their feelings, and you can't argue away that. So hey, you're always angry. That's real. That's real for you. Now, someone else might argue that there's no reason for you to feel that way, but that's how you're feeling. So it isn't too small. There is no too small.
Okay. So practically speaking, let's do this, and then I've got a couple of wrap-up questions. Okay, so looking back for you, how has God used your own grief not to define your life, but to deepen it?
First of all, drawing me closer to him.
Which is the point, right?
It's true. We don't want to suffer. But I think it was St. Jose Maria Escriva who said, Christ is on the cross. And if I want to be close to Christ, you have to approach the cross, which there's some suffering involved in that. And so drawing me closer to him, but also just an awareness of the individual experiences and suffering people might be going through that are hidden. Because so often people's grief is hidden. You're not always, or you might be the person crying in Target, but for most of us, we try to hide it and be as strong as possible. People say that a lot. You're so strong. It's like you're trying to be as strong as possible, but what's going on internally? And to recognize that we don't know what is going on internally for other people. And so I really am grateful in that way for the experience of loss, so that I'm more aware.
Yes. You know how to pay attention. What message do you have for those that are tuning in today that might be carrying grief?
Well, if you're listening today and carrying grief, I just would like you to please hear this. Nothing is wrong with you. Grief is not a failure of faith. It's the cost of love. Love doesn't disappear when someone is gone. Like, we just don't know what to do with it. And so it comes out sideways, comes out in a lot of different ways, but you don't have to be strong, hopeful, or healed right now. God is not waiting for you to get through your grief, not waiting for you to be fixed to come to him. He's right there with you in it. And even if all you can do today is breathe and listen, that's enough. You are not alone.
He's right there with you. All right, Kate. So again, for someone that might be tuning in that wants to reach out to you, where should they go? And what other information do you have about the Catholic Psych Institute?
Well, people could reach me and learn more about mentorship at my website for Mosaic Mentorship, which is katelefavor.com. And
spell that out for me.
Yes, KATELEFAIVRE.com. Or at the Catholic Psych website, which would be catholicpsych.com/Kate-Lefavor. And again, that's LEFAIVRE. It's tricky. But also, if you'd like to learn more about mentorship, about Catholic Psych Institute, which was founded by Dr. Greg Bottaro, he has a podcast called the Being Human Podcast, and really just great episodes. Talking with different people about all areas of life.
I've seen it. It's fantastic. Yeah, I highly recommend you check that out. So what is the podcast again? What's it called?
The Being Human Podcast.
The Being Human Podcast. So just search that. Kate, thank you for joining us on FaithWorks and for sharing your story with such clarity, honesty, and hope. It's really incredibly encouraging. Your witness does show us that grief does not define a life, but when placed in God's hands, it can deepen it and even become a place of renewed purpose, which is certainly what you've done. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Ellen.
If you missed any part of this episode or you want to catch up on past conversations filled with inspiration and hope, you can find them all at divinemercyradio.org. Just click on local shows. And don't forget, you can take FaithWorks with you wherever you go. Just download the free Divine Mercy Radio app from your app store. Simply search Divine Mercy Radio NC, and you're all set to listen anytime, anywhere. God bless.